extend to quotes and opportunities as well. So configuration is not just sales orders, it would work on quotes or opportunities as well. So you'll notice under preferences, I do have features. Features is a grouping of items. So as I go through things, for example, one of the examples that I will use is a baseball bat. And we'll see an area of wood where what do I want, ash or maple for my bat? Well, the feature that we've defined is this wood, and then we have options, which are the individual items underneath it, which is that maple or ash. Or one of the ones that I prepared for today was the beginning of configuring an Acumatica system, how we quote Acumatica. And I built a configuration for that. And you'll see financial modules and distribution modules. So you'll see those as features, those groupings of, global financials and intercompany accounting and other things that are features. And then each individual module would be an option or an item. So again, a little bit of terminology there, but that's what that features is representing. Opening up configuration maintenance, you can see the different configurations that we've set up. Again, many of these are in the demo company. This one here certainly is not, but we'll take a look at several of these together. I'm going to start with some simple ones, and then we'll get more advanced as we go through this. This is not meant to be completely in depth. It's really to whet your appetite a little bit, understand some of the capability. But if anybody wants to take a deeper dive or have a one-off, please reach out, Frank, Jaden, Dean, to our team, and we're happy to schedule that and do a deeper dive into some of these areas. But today is really, again, that higher level, what capability do I have here? So taking a look at this, you can see, and one of the more simple or easier to understand configurations is this baseball bat that I mentioned. So looking at how we build the configuration, there are a couple of tabs. Before we click on the tabs, as I mentioned, a bill of material is required for the configurator. And you can notice over here on the right, this is linked to this bill of material, this revision. If I click on the pencil, it will open up that bill of material. In this case, hopefully most people are familiar with Acumatica bills. Our bill of material is the routing and potentially the material required to make an item. So unlike some other systems where we have separate routings and we have separate bills of material, we combine them into one screen. That doesn't mean you have to use multiple steps. You could have a bill of material with a single step or one operation. In this case, we have four. Now, typical Acumatica, as I highlight a row or operation, down below I'll see the materials required. And you'll notice as I highlight each of these, there is absolutely no material defined. There is nothing that is standard across all configurations of this baseball bat. So the configurator will add to these. And it's important to note that we have operation 10 through 40. So when we define items in the configurator, we're going to tell it which operation that item gets added at. Is that part of the engraving, part of the painting? Is it part of the cutting? So we're going to define that within the configuration setup. So the bill of material for the baseball bat that we're about to look up is here. 4 operations, no materials. Going back to the configurator, I'm going to start on the second tab here, which is attributes. For those familiar with Acumatica, attributes is kind of our user-defined fields, but they are user-defined fields with formatting. So as I create a user-defined field, I can determine, is it a checkbox? Is it a text field? Is it a drop-down list? Is it a multi-select list? And you'll see examples of these as I go through these configurations of those different formats. You'll notice each of these attributes has a variable, bat length, express, stamp, weight, that may be used as we define the features and attributes. So in this case, bat length is important to notate. You'll notice a rule down below. So we're indicating that this bat length has to be between 30 and 35. And we have a rule that says validate. You'll see other types of rules as we go through more examples. But the first rule that you're seeing is validate, which is system checking to make sure that the answer to this question meets this rule. It is between these two values. Features, grouping of items. So you can see here, we're asking for the handle color, the body color of the bat, the engraving color when we engrave the bat, and finally, what wood. When we look at the wood, for example, notice down here, quantity required, bat length, that variable between 30 and 35, plus 1 inch for scrap or for cutting. So you'll see these quantities change as we go through the configuration. By the way, you can see the different colors that we ask. Right before this, I did the math, and if I were to look at all of the options for this configurator, I would have to set up 780 bills of material. So you can imagine the amount of work in that versus what we're looking at here. What does this look like for, or some other areas I mentioned before, by the way, operation, you can see paint, the bat handle color is done at operation 20. You can see these are all operation 20. The engraving is operation 30. The wood is operation 10. So you can see this operation here where we are adding these items to the bill of material as we build the bill of material on the fly, uniquely for this build. What the screen looks like for your user can be looked at here under test configuration, or if I entered this item in an order, it would take me to the same exact screen. So you can see here the questions being asked, those attributes or user-defined fields. So in this case, we defaulted and we set that up a bat length of 32. Remember, we had a validate rule. If I try to put a 29 in here, you'll notice I get a message telling me it has to be between 30 and 35. So we are validating that. We are making sure that it is within parameters. I'll make it 33 for the moment. I can answer a couple of other questions. And there are multiple ways of setting up these configurators. You'll notice this is again, Acumatica demo configuration where I have to answer questions on the attributes. And then I would go over to the options page and I would now make my selections. This is a very viable way of doing configurations. I happen to like to keep our users on a single page. So I tend to ask all of my questions on the attributes. And then with rules, I automatically choose the options under the configurations. And you'll see that on the Acumatica software one that I did as an example. So I really like to keep our users on a single page, not saying there's a right or wrong answer. It's personal preference. So in this case, I answered these questions on the attributes, and now I can select these different choices. Now, before I select anything, I want to be very clear. You can see a handle color, a body color, right? We have 6 handles, we have 6 body, and we have 5 paint. So important to notate that because it is a rules-based configurator. And we have rules set up where we can say, for example, I can have a natural handle, I can have a black body on the bat. And now notice engraving color is only 4. We eliminated the black engraving. It doesn't make sense to put black engraving on a black body bat. So when we close this screen and I show you that configuration, just like we saw a validate rule on the attribute, you'll see an exclude rule underneath this I can speak, bat body color. So at this point, notice red X, I haven't met the criteria. So I have to, you can see minimum selection 1. So I have to select 1 here. We'll go ahead and we'll do red lettering. I've now answered that and I have to answer the wood question. Do I want wood ash or wood maple? If, as I do this, you'll notice the system when I select $41, it's rolling up. You'll notice if I change that to maple, $58. So it can roll up the cost of each of these, and it can absolutely determine the cost based on the selected features and options that you've used. With that, another point, notice the quantity of wood. We need 34 inches of wood. Well, if I go back to our attributes and I change this color from if I change this size from 33 to 31, you'll notice the quantity of wood on the option is now 32. So we're taking that value, we're adding 1 to it for scrap, and that's what we're putting on the bill of material to make this. So hopefully, let me take as I promised, I would show you some of those rules. So you'll notice down here the options, the different colors that we're seeing. You'll also see the rules. And here are those exclude rules for this bat. So we can see here that when somebody chooses a bat body color equal to black, we eliminate, you can see exclude, we eliminate black lettering, so on and so forth. Now down here, we did something with an automatic include. So you can see if they want a natural body bat, we automatically select the ash. That's the only example for it. So we have the ability to validate, we can do include, we can do exclude, and we can do requirements. Those would be the different examples of what we can do as far as different rule types go. Showing something a little bit more complex. So we started here and something that may have some standard items. They don't change, right? So based on it, it just doesn't change at all. We can take a look here at a bicycle. So there are chains and brakes and things like that that you'll notice on the bill of material when we open it up. More operations than I showed on the bat. So we need to cut, we need to weld, but you'll notice as I highlight here, cutting, second time, cable. It doesn't change based on the configuration. I always need 5 feet of cable. No matter what you choose during this configuration process, that stays the same. So whatever we do on the configurator will add to the list here. Same thing as we go down assembly. The gear shift, the brakes, things like that don't change regardless of color and final assembly. We have some items, tires and rims that stay the same. So if there are items that are not dependent upon the configuration, you can absolutely put them on the bill of material. Anything dependent upon the configuration, you would load under feature and options. So in this case, attributes. You can see here what size bike. We can get into the color of the bike. And color in general is just an amazing use of configurator, just because the number of things multiplies out very quickly. So anytime we see multicolor, we really do start to lean on product configurator very heavily. It's just so important there. In this case, we have some rules based on states. So the bicycle may change some of the configuration based on the state. So we are asking for a state. And you can see, would you like electric? And right now, electric is checked. If I wanted engraving, I could put my name on it, and that would pass through to the production ticket. But you'll see here a lot of different things happen, right? Since we have this checked at the moment, notice as we go over to options and we take a look here at bike style, I have one choice of electric, simply one choice. If I go back to these attributes and not unselect electric, and we now go back, now I can get a mountain bike or a hybrid bike or a dirt bike, or I can manually select electric. So you can see that by selecting values on the attribute, we can really streamline what selections people may have on here. So the ability to do that is all absolutely right here. As I go through this, it's a mountain bike. Again, remember these green check marks, red X's, right? Red X indicates that I have not satisfied the conditions of that feature set. I may have a minimum, a maximum. I may have a minimum selection. So there's lots of things you can see here, and I have to select if I want this. If I try to select multiple, you can see it turns red again because the maximum selection in this case is 1. So I do have the ability to do min, max. Commuter, you can see here what I'm looking for. This was defaulted, all 3 of these, based on me selecting this commuter bundle. If I unselect it and go back to the options, notice now they're all unselected by default. So again, simple rules that drive default behavior. We can go through, and as we go through, you can see the price of this bicycle, and it'll change as we select different things. Right? So we can see that change as we select. Do I want a helmet? All that good stuff. When we hit the finish button, that's when it does create that kind of captured bill of material. And then again, we pass along to the production order, or you can use the configurator directly from the production order screen. So you can create a manual production order for a configured item. There simply is a configure button on the product, on the production order screen to configure the item for that specific production order. Showing one more example is one that I recently did, and this is one that I did for how you may purchase Acumatica. Little plug there, right? But it was something that most of the people on the call would understand, right? So you can see here features, what edition of the software. Acumatica comes in multiple. I didn't set them all up, but you can see general business, distribution edition, manufacturing edition. We could have construction edition. Each one of those may come with different sets of modules based upon the edition. Then I asked for add-ons. The general business edition distribution doesn't come with these modules. They're optional. And I gave a list of some optional finance modules, distribution modules, right? Tenants. How many companies do you have? And there's a lot more that we could do with this. It was simply something that I wanted to play with a bit for today and show you, and also show rules. So you will definitely see some rules around these, and you can see some validate rules and some other things. So when we take a look at attributes, you can see I have a list of attributes here, and I have different types of attributes. And I did this so I could demonstrate how different types of attributes could work in the product configurator. So you can see I've assigned variables. You can see some rules down here, and I'm very big on include and exclude rules. I like to try to eliminate not only keeping my users on the attribute screen when they're configuring them, but I like to eliminate issues that I may have on the feature and options screen by doing exclude rules. And I'll show you what I mean by that as we go through this. Right? And then we're asking a bunch of checkboxes we can see that we have here for different modules and some drop-down lists. Each one of these you'll see rules, right? So for example, additional tenants, we sell additional tenants in either by the tenant or 5-packs. So I'm doing a rule to validate that nobody's asking for more than 5, it's less than 5 single tenants. You would always buy a 5-pack if you wanted 5. You would never buy them individually. It would not be price wise to do so. It's much more expensive to buy that way. So that's a validation I'm doing there. And then you can see here what I'm including it if it's more than one. It's an optional piece. I don't need more than one. It could be 0, and then I just wouldn't include this. So the ability to do that is absolutely there. Let's take a look at what the test looks like. So if I open this up, you can see a list of questions that I'm asking. And again, my intent is I like to keep my users on a single screen. I don't want them have to go over to options to answer questions. I want them to be able to simply here fill this out. So if we can see general business edition, distribution edition, manufacturing edition. If we start with general business, as I mentioned, as I check something by mistake, I like to eliminate errors. So if we take a look here at edition and we click on the options, you'll notice there I removed manufacturing. I removed distribution. Somebody can answer the question to the attribute saying general business edition and then go in here and select a different edition. I took those options away. So that way I'm eliminating any mistakes that somebody may make. Now, do you want global financials? Do you want deferred revenue? Do you want contract management? So I can simply go in here and I can select the additional modules that I'm interested in. And you can see as I selected these underneath financial, it added those modules, right? Intercompany accounting. It added contracts. It added underneath distribution. It added shipping carrier. So as I select these, I don't have to ever go over to the option tab. It's simply adding exactly what I need. Now I did do a little bit more. So you can see here, tenants, remember the validate. If I want 7 additional tenants, I get a nasty red X over here. This didn't work. 7 doesn't make sense, has to be less than 5. So maybe I do need 6 tenants or 7 tenants total. Maybe I want 2 of these, and notice it added Acumatica 1 tenant. It'll be for a quantity of 2. And we'll see that. I'm going to pass this number, and I want 1 5-pack. If we take a look at the options here, you'll see the quantity 2 singles, 1 5-pack. So based on the answer to the question, I'm passing the quantity over to this. So I know I'm not manufacturing this software, but I thought it was an interesting example on how we could look at it and how we could simply answer questions to come up with exactly what we're looking for. Now notice underneath here, if I change general business to distribution, you'll notice this changes as we tab off, and you'll notice other things got added automatically. So you can see exactly what's going on there. So with distribution, by the way, you get the general business edition and you get the distribution modules, right? So general business was a bill of and I'll show you, it's a bill of material that has a bunch of modules on it. Distribution also has modules on it. And lastly, if you ordered the manufacturing edition, you would get the distribution modules, the general business modules, and the manufacturing modules. So you'll see all three of those would be added underneath additions. As I mentioned, those were, and you absolutely can work with subassemblies. So if we open up the bill of material, you can see here I have one operation. I kept it super simple, no materials, right? To show bill of materials for a minute, I mentioned those different additions that I was using. So if we do take a look here at different bills of material, and I'll just sort this descending, they're my most recent, you can see, for example, the general business edition comes up. I meant to click on the bill of material ID, not the item. So you can see here, general business edition, and it comes with those modules. Comes with financials, monitoring, and automation, accounts payable, multi-factor, one tenant, right? We can see, and as we go through this, you'll see when I get into, for example, the distribution edition, it comes with purchase orders, financials, inventory, order management. Manufacturing comes with the financials, the distribution, manufacturing. So you can see the different components, and absolutely using BOMs or subassemblies for product configurator is a great use of it. Simplify the number of things that you have to create. Lastly, what I mentioned was you could, even without a sales order, and I will show what it looks like from a sales order. So if we do go to enter a new sales order, you'll notice that I have, for example, the baseball bat set up as a made to order item. So when we do enter a sales order for this bat, my customer USA bartending, certainly interested in baseball bats. I don't know the part number. I can simply start looking for bat. I found my custom bat. How many of the same configuration do they want? So that is what I would put over here into the quantity field. I don't know the price. I don't know any of that information yet. The system's going to determine it based on my configuration. And you can see here that I have a button to configure this. Same screen that we took a look at. What's the length? I answer these questions. Answer my options. Remember, that's how Acumatica does it. Right? Natural body. Notice natural body automatically chose the wood. Right? We saw that in the configuration. When I finish this, it'll write the price back. It'll write everything back. So now you can see the price gets updated based upon my selection. You'll also notice over here on the right, mark for production would be checked, and we would automatically either on a schedule or from here, we would create the production order for this item. We can do it from the production order module or from the sales order. But if we did this, you would see the wood, the length of the wood. All of those different items are going to be on the production order based on how we answered the questions to the product configurator. So again, this is all in the name of a lot less maintenance, less configuration, less bill of materials to maintain, and streamlining that process. If we take a look at production orders, production order maintenance, I could have gotten there from the sales order, but I want to show truly from the module. You'll see here our baseball bat, today's date, what we just did together. Here's our production order. And if we take a look at what we call production details, you'll see we know that bill of material had nothing, but you can see wood at 33 inches, our 32-inch bat plus 1 inch. You can see the paint and stain natural, right, for the handle and for the bat itself. You can see the engraving in red. and you can see we finally just need to inspect and package. So that bill of material was built on the fly based on the answers to that question. As I mentioned, lastly, over here in the configuration, you'll see configure, right? So I can launch the product configurator. I can see exactly from this production order how sales or customer service answered the questions. I am able to see that. If a mistake was made, I am able to edit that here. Or lastly, I could create a new production order for an item and I could configure it on the production order. You can imagine I showed some simple examples. This can get very complex. You can get into large calculations, right? So you'll see doors and windows, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but you'll notice when I go into test, we're asking for a lot more as far as dimensions and quantities. So inches, and these variables, you can see each one of these attributes has a variable. And notice over here, when I'm calculating, for example, the jam, you can see the formula here for how I'm calculating the quantity of jam required. So it absolutely can handle complex calculations, lots of formulas, two sides. You can see I'm multiplying times two. I'm doing all kinds of interesting things. But the ability really to streamline this, and this is something that you probably just couldn't build a bill of material for. There's just too many measurements that we're asking for, that having a standard bill of material with a custom sized door that could be any inch, it would be impossible to maintain, right? You'd be really creating a bill of material almost for every sales order, as opposed to something pretty standard with this. Hopefully that does address some questions. I know several on this call may already be using the configurator. There are some other things that we didn't touch on, something called a key. So in addition to the part number, I mentioned the part number is generic. It is the same regardless of configuration. You can build a unique key. So if you want this unique identifier on the sales order, which is the part number dash the different attributes that they select, you absolutely can build that. It does not store it in inventory, but you can reference it, you can search it, you can print it on documents. It is on the production order, so it is very useful for reporting and analysis.
Jeff, we got our first question.
All right.
Actually, they want you to kind of, can you guys talk about how this ties
Yes.
into the quoting module?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in Acumatica, I mentioned opportunities and quotes. So if I was in sales orders, we have customers who use quotes differently. So I'm just going to show both. One of them is quote QT order type. So instead of doing a sales order, I could do a quote here. If I do a quote here for USA bartending, you can see as I do a quote and I put that same, well, in this case, we'll go with the baseball bat again, since we've really gotten to know it and love it. You'll notice in here when I save my quote, I have the configure button and I can configure this item for this quote, right? Certainly if I convert this quote to an order, that configuration would come over. So that's one version of quoting that some of our customers use. The other option for quoting is done more from a CRM perspective, a little bit more specific. CRM. So if we go under more modules, we can see we have additional modules here, and opportunities is one of them. So you can see on a given opportunity, I can have sales quotes, a little bit different than our sales order quotes. They are called sales quotes in the system, but we have the ability to use the configurator on these quotes as well. So if I go into an open opportunity, and here there's a prospect, and I go under quotes, you can see I can open up a quote, for example, and I certainly could use a configured item on it. So yeah, you are, by all means, you can see the configure button here, right? If I go in here and I do that baseball bat again, and they want 10 of these bats, it's for a team, you can see that configure button, and I can configure for quotes. So whether it be a sales quote or a sales order order type of QT, you can use configurator in either scenario. Some of the things I didn't discuss, we use configurator pretty heavily. We have lots of clients using it. The printing of reports. When we print acknowledgements, order acknowledgements, things like that, standard Acumatica will just show the item number. For many of our clients, we have exploded those attributes onto sales order acknowledgements and invoices and other documents. So the customer can see, in this case, it was a 32-inch bat with a natural handle, and we can show that on the acknowledgement if you'd like. Again, standard Acumatica or standard forms don't do that, but since it's in the database, having the reports do that is something that we've done multiple times. Really nice look, gives the customer exactly the answers that they need to confirm that that is the right order and the right item on the order. So adding things like that to the documents is easily done. Any other questions that you see, Frank?
I am not seeing anything coming in yet, but what we'll hopefully do is I have a couple of other announcements to make. So if you guys have questions, start thinking about it, typing it in. But I wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up about the lunch. There was a question about where's my lunch voucher and all that stuff. I do apologize. Acumatica informed me that they have a new policy in place, and typically what they do is they get the attendance list from the event after the event, then they send out the vouchers. So you guys should be getting email vouchers tomorrow, and they'll take care of you tomorrow. And I guess what's happened in the past is some people have taken advantage of it. It's not usually from our company because most of our webinars are, active clients with us and stuff like that. So I'm assuming this comes down from other, partners and whatnot. Another thing I want to mention is Acumatica Summit is January 28th through the 31st. If you guys are interested in attending, there is a registration. Reach out to any of the Mayor Group team members, whether it be Jaden, Jeff, Dean, or myself. We can give you details about it. If you have questions about the event, what it's about, feel free to reach out to us as well. We'll be able to answer any questions. It's a good time. And final last note that I have is next month, we will be doing another webinar, and it's going to be around eBiz. That's one of our partners, credit card. They're going to be conducting the actual webinar. So look for emails and registration coming out if they already haven't, or you can go right to our website to the upcoming events and register directly there. It'll be another great webinar. So Jeff, I do see some other questions coming in. I'm sure you're reading them as I am talking. So you're on mute.
I did not see them, but let me go ahead and switch over. All right. So I saw the lunch. Got all that. Quoting module we talked about. All right. Can we bring data in from Excel spreadsheets to product configurator? In order to set up the product configurators, as far as the rules go, as far as the features or the options, absolutely. We have a data import tool to do that. So yes, when setting up configurations, absolutely we can import from Excel. Yes, and throughout almost all of Acumatica, you'll see that. When entering a sales order, if I want to import the lines of a sales order from Excel, I can do that. Journal entries from Excel, I can do that. Acumatica really has a nice integration with Excel. So absolutely, we can do that. APIs, 100% of anything that I'm showing that we can do through a screen in Acumatica, you can do through an open API. So if you have other systems and they need to interact with Acumatica, answer questions, as I said, 100% of the stuff that we're doing through screens can be done through APIs. So the product configurator included. Absolutely. And last question here. The event, Acumatica Summit 2024, end of January, is in Las Vegas at the Wynn. This will be our third or fourth year at the Wynn. We've been attending every one of them. We were in Las Vegas before this at a different hotel. I can tell you the Wynn is absolutely a beautiful property, large property as most of the Vegas hotels are. Acumatica, we typically have somewhere in the area of 4,000 attendees. It is a really good event, lots of good content. You'll hear a lot around Acumatica 24R1 features coming out, what they're doing on the roadmap, and the roadmap they'll talk about for years out, not just the next release, but you will get quite a bit of information around that. So yeah, a lot of information comes out of the event, but it is in Las Vegas at the Wynn.
And Jeff, just to give everybody a heads up on that, early bird pricing does expire Friday, December 1st. But it's still open, but the early bird pricing will be gone after, and they will not re-up it.
Like a Black Friday sale.
Exactly.
Something like that. DNA. So what I'm seeing here, and if I'm interpreting the question right, I mentioned that product key. So can we have a string of options? And the answer is yes, that key. So when you have attributes and each attribute has a variable, you can build that key where it can take the variable dash another variable dash another variable. So you can build what we call a unique key, which would kind of, I think, answer this question of DNA or what exactly did the customer order. Yeah, we have some users on here that are using that, and they use those product keys pretty heavily. Absolutely unique identifier based on key. Yes, that can be done. I'll give it a couple seconds here, 15 or 30, see if anybody else any additional questions. As Frank mentioned, truly do appreciate the time. I know everybody's busy, certainly coming into, it's crazy to think holiday season and next week Thanksgiving. So really do appreciate the time and continued trust in us. As I said, if anybody wants to take a deeper dive, see anything in more detail, reach out to anyone on the team. We are happy to help any way we can. Looks like that may be it. So we'll give you a little bit of time back today. We'll get those vouchers out with Acumatica as soon as possible, and truly look forward to talking to each. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Yep. Bye now.